Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge House. Let's look into the newspapers of the date 7th and 8th of September 2018. So we'll be analyzing two newspapers right now. So as usual, we'll be looking only to certain articles that are important from a UPSC and other grade A and grade B exams perspective. So I welcome you all to this video. Let's start. The first article is about decriminalization of homosexuality. So Supreme Court decriminalized homosexuality yesterday, and Section 377 has been a reason for much tragedy and anguish. Bench says that the history owes the LGBT community an apology, and choice of a partner is a part of fundamental right to privacy. And all the important comments of important judges are also mentioned here. Anyway, let's have a glance of that. So, Justice Nariman, when the state has no compelling reason to penalize same-sex couples who cause no harm to other, it is a violation of fundamental rights. That was the comment from Justice Nariman. And Justice Chandrachud said, "What is the order of nature? State cannot decide the boundaries between what is permissible or not. Section 377 is a biased on deep-rooted gender stereotypes." Let's look into what Justice Indu Malhotra said. History owes an apology to the members of this community and their families for a delay in providing this kind of redressal. So, the bench led by Justice Deepak Mishra, Chief Justice Deepak Mishra, unanimously held that criminalization of the private consensual sexual conduct between adults of the same sex under Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code was clearly unconstitutional. The court, however, held that section would apply to unnatural sexual acts like bestiality, and sexual acts without consent continues to be a crime under section 377. So this is really like a positive development when compared to the similar laws of the same nature in other countries. So considering the fact that it's a part of fundamental right, so definitely this is also a part of fundamental right, of course. So, and the comments from various judges that the state has no role to decide this kind of thing, and state has certain boundaries to decide between what is permissible and what is not, and these are the important dimensions from which we should look into this issue. So that's all about this particular article. Let's move on to the next one. It is regarding the India US relationship, and India signed the landmark defense pact with the US. So, India and the United States on Thursday sealed the landmark COMCASA, that is Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, that will lead to a new generation of bilateral military partnership. They welcomed the signing of this COMCASA that will facilitate the access to advanced defense systems and enable India to optimally utilize its existing origin platforms. See, when coming to Comcasa, definitely I have already taken up this issue in a separate slide and all that. What exactly is this Comcasa? So the importance of like right now, US has already assigned a strategic trade authorization level 1 to India. This is usually given to certain countries like Japan and also other NATO allies. So as of now, this particular tag has been given to India, which will enable or which will facilitate a better trade relationship between India and the US. So coming to COMCASA, both this agreement will or this STA1 will be complementing COMCASA. That's the point from which we have to look at the whole pact. So the high-end communication systems will be, and also this will help us to, better exercise our surveillance duties, especially coming to the Indian Ocean region and all that. We have a lot of strategic importance in that particular area. So that this is going to be a welcome move. Anyway, as of today, US has been silent on how to proceed with the S-400 deal with Russia and the Iran factor. That is how to that is the US has said that or US has asked us to reduce oil imports from Iran to zero. So both these issues, the whole 2+2 talks has been silent. So let's look into that in the later part of this today. So that's all important about that. Let's move on to the next one. This is actually regarding a legal history of this whole LGBT kind of thing. So I strongly recommend you to watch the video by Knowledge House regarding the legal history of this section 377. Anyway, let's take a brief glance about that. So it was in 1862 that Section 377 came into force. So in 2009 there was a High Court, a Delhi High Court, read down the section to apply only to non-consensual penile and various kinds of orientations. And in 2013, a Supreme Court bench set aside this particular Delhi High Court judgment. And later in 2016 February, and it's like a timeline. Anyway, that's not important from any other competitive exams perspective. So let's move on to the next article. So government should have taken a stand on Section 377. That's what judge said. So all that the stand of the government indicates is that it is to the wisdom of this court that matter it is left. So in reflecting upon this appeal to our wisdom, it is just as well as that we judges, it was a comment from a judge. That's why the whole language is like that. In reflecting upon the appeal to our wisdom, it is just as well that we as judges remind ourselves the truth which can unwittingly be forgotten. Anyway, the whole yesterday's the whole newspaper, I mean, the national news part and the editorial part, whole news has been given, all the whole pages, 2 pages has been given to various kinds of dimensions of this Section 377. So all we have to do is just a glance of that, which has been already covered, the various kinds of issues that, like privacy and what all things that still remain a part of Section 377, like that. So that's all important about this Article 2. So let's move on to the next one. It is regarding North Korea. So already there has been a lot of positive developments in Korean Peninsula, especially when it comes to the relationship between North Korea and the US, and also the relationship between South Korea and North Korea is also now on a fresh path. So North Korea's Kim Jong-un has given his first timeline for denuclearization, aiming for the end of US President Donald Trump's first term, Seoul officials said on Thursday, prompting thanks from Mr. Trump, who said that this would get it done together. So Mr. Kim and South Korean President Moon Jae-in will also meet in Pyongyang on September 18-20 for a third summit and discuss the various kinds of issues regarding the denuclearization. So anyway, there has been a recent some negative developments are also going on between North Korea and the US. Anyway, the whole equation is that matters. Definitely, India has as of now, India doesn't have any stake in North Korea US relationship. So that's all about this particular article. Let's move on to the next one. So electric vehicles and CNG vehicles do not need permits. Automobiles running on alternative fuels are exempted, and there will be no such concession on hybrids. That's what Ministry of Transportation and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, has said. So no permits would be required for vehicles running on alternative fuel, including CNG, ethanol, and electronic vehicles, a move that is expected to boost the demand for such vehicles in the country. So Minister said we have decided to exempt all these vehicles, including auto rickshaws, buses, taxis that run on alternative fuel. And the minister said that's what the minister said on the summit or the meeting of Society for Indian Automobile Manufacturers (SIAM) on 58th. It's on its 58th meeting. So that's all important about this. So we have to what we have to look at when we reading this article is regarding the ethanol blended petrol program and also the FAME program. That is, I think I have already taken both this up. If you haven't, please look at yesterday's the Hindu News analysis video. So that's all about this. Let's move on to the next one. The data could be a thorny issue in Indo-US ties. That's what Anand Mahindra has said. So India's recent move to compel technology and payment firms to store data within the country is likely to turn into a contentious issue for commercial ties between India and the US than American firms' usual complaints about the difficulty of doing business here. So there are going to be some new problems that will come up. As you know, the Reserve Bank of India has issued a circular recently talking about the payment banks needing to store data in India. So it is foreseeable that becoming a very thorny issue. As some of the largest US companies are going to have problems with that. And this was the brief of what Anand Mahindra said on a particular meeting. So that's all about yesterday's newspaper. Now let's look into today's newspaper. Supreme Court orders Rajasthan to file report on Alwar lynching. So Supreme Court asked the Rajasthan government to file an affidavit within 1 week on the status of the probe and action taken against the errant police officers who were actually taking no action to this particular lynching episode. The victim, Ragbar Khan, has died of injuries while police officers allegedly took time off to herd his cows to a goshala before taking him to hospital. So, what is this curious case of Rule 3? Under Rule 3(5) of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Rules 2001, a state can confer powers upon any society in a district to prevent cruelty against animals. Please look into this. It's a really it is not much heard about this particular thing. So, counsel for the petitioner, Indira Jaising, who is a senior lawyer in Supreme Court. So, Indira Jaising submitted that the rule provided state accreditation to cow vigilantism. This is a really credible allegation. It sounds like a credible allegation. So, these organized civil society groups engage in cow vigilantism. These groups are given police power to stop vehicles, search premises, and seize animals. So anyway, let's see how things are going to develop. It's a really negative development regarding the cow vigilantism. This is actually these things cannot be permitted, at least in a liberal society like India. So that's all about that particular article. Let's move on to the next one. Supreme Court refuses to stay amendments to the SC/ST Act. So Supreme Court on Friday refused to stay the recent amendments to the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. So the Amendment Bill 2018 restored the legislative intent of the original act, which barred anticipatory bail to a person accused of insulting or hurting a Dalit. The amendments were meant to nullify the effect of March 2020 judgment of the court that removed the bar on accused person seeking anticipatory bail. So this was a tussle between the Supreme Court and the Parliament. There was a tussle going on between these two wings of our government. So that's all about this. Anyway, the conviction rate of this particular law has to be taken into consideration when we are looking into this article. So to what extent this law is successful in preventing the violence against Dalits? Even now we can see a lot of episodes. The Dalits are being lynched, they are being attacked, they are being stripped, various kinds of laws, but still such perpetrators are free. So definitely this raises a lot of questions. Is this the right strategy to adopt when it comes to preventing assault on a particular community? So that's all about this particular article. Let's move on to the next one. IMA moves ethics code overall. So can an individual doctor advertise or have a website to promote her practice to compete with aggressively marketed corporate hospitals? Should the donation of cadaver organs be made mandatory for all? Is it important for medical students to study ethics throughout the duration of MBBS course? So Indian Medical Association has a yes to all these questions. So marking a bold departure from the existing code of ethics that covers Indian medical profession. That is Indian Medical under the IMA. It's a voluntary body that counts for it has lakhs of doctors in its membership. So this particular body is in the process of redefining the code in order to assure a more contemporary outlook. So what does the new treatment mean? So IMA, the individual doctors may be allowed to publicize their practice, and the decision to pull the plug should be taken by the relatives, not the doctors. That is when it comes to the ventilator kind of treatment. So doctors should ensure that surrogates or egg donors are not exploited, and the cadaver organ donations must be made compulsory for all. So the current code of medical ethics by the Medical Council of India dates back to 2002. So anyway, this is going to be a positive development, especially even though this is going to be a positive development, this will have many, once the website kind of thing comes into play, when it comes to review making in a website, especially regarding the services rendered by a company or an individual, definitely the search engine optimizers play a great role in making the reviews high and always that kind of thing. You might have noticed in Amazon, various products, there will be various products and only some of them will be the verified purchases. So others are simply paid for writing their reviews and all that. So definitely this raises a lot of questions regarding this particular also, because when doctors are allowed to start a Facebook page or a kind of website as it is mentioned here, definitely this raises questions regarding is that, or is the news put by them, or is the facts put by them are really credible or not? So, and also there are a lot of allegations regarding the Indian medical industry, that is that especially regarding the doctors, especially of the nexus between doctors and the pharmaceutical companies. So they are always alleged of paying, they are alleged of being, they charge a lot from the patients irrespective of their financial background and all that. So there are multiple dimensions from which this issue has to be taken into. So that's all important about this article. Let's move on to the next one. Every patient will be evaluated. That's what the Johnson and Johnson on hip implants has said. Exact compensation will be difficult to fix. So every patient will have to be evaluated, and it is hard to put an exact amount on the compensation. That's what Johnson and Johnson has said. So this was regarding the DPOE. Yesterday we analyzed this particular issue. Not yesterday; it was day before yesterday. What exactly is this about? So it was about a particular type of hip replacement named ASR. So the medical spokesperson has said this, and contesting the Union Health Ministry's recent direction to pay a base amount compensation of 20 lakh to the patients implanted with the ASR hip manufactured by DPOE, which is a subsidiary of Johnson and Johnson. So in our country, if you hurt a dog or kill the animal, you can be fined, jailed, or both. How then are J&J officials being let off? This is a really critical question. So my mother still, this is what is mentioned here. So my mother still believes that we killed our father. How do I explain to her that every people we went with trust and hope destroyed our lives and killed our relatives? So these are the kind of statements that comes from the relatives who are severely affected by this ASR hip implants. So you may please look into what kind of infections have been happened. There are cases of fluid accumulation. There are cases of metal poisoning. There are severe issues when it comes to medical industry. So that's all important about that. Now let's look into some economy. So that is CAD widens on a higher trade deficit. So the current account deficit in the first quarter of 2018-19 increased by $0.8 billion. However, as a proportion of GDP, it declined to a marginally of 2.4% compared to 2.5% in the first quarter of 2018. So the data like this or information like this changes every quarter. So all we have to do, all we have to take care of is the trade deficit has widened, especially on the account of rising fuel prices and also the dollar prices, the exchange rate between the US dollar and Indian rupees. So that's all about this particular article. Let's move on to the next one. Leaders failed to agree on Idlib truce. So this is a province actually in Syria where there is a where the various kinds of factions that are in Syria are going on. The kind of really boiling situation is going on in Idlib. So, President of Turkey, Iran, and Russia on Friday failed to agree on a ceasefire that would forestall that it will limit a Syrian government offensive in the rebel-held Idlib province, which the UN fears could cause a humanitarian catastrophe involving 10,000 of civilians. So, Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Russia's Vladimir Putin, and Iran's Hassan Rouhani meeting in Tehran for a summit of key foreign players in Syria war agreed in a final settlement that there would be no military solution to the conflict and it would end only through a negotiated political process. Anyway, it has been a long time, or the Syrian civil war is a very long, or has been going on since long. I think it was started in somewhere in the aftermath of this Arab Spring. It's like 2012 to 13 or something. From then on, it has been almost 5 to 6 years since the Syrian civil war. So it is high time for a negotiated political process. But there are various kinds of interest. Iran will never cooperate with US, and Russia will never cooperate with US. And of course, as of now, Turkey also will not cooperate with the US. But at the same time, US and Saudi Arabia, Israel, all of them have their own stakes in Syria. So anyway, it is really, 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 really tough for a political settlement to happen in Syria. So that's all about this particular article. Let's move on to the next one. FBI start process of falling in line. Almost a dozen foreign funds across the geography such as Singapore, Mauritius and the US, which invest in the Indian stock exchanges, have started restructuring their ownership and management structure to comply with the SEBI order that bars NRIs, among others, from acting as fund managers of foreign portfolio investment. So, what exactly is this FPI? This is FPI refers to the kind of investment but that comes into the equity market. So, as per the SEBI order, it has barred non-resident Indians and various other categories of citizens, that is, this overseas citizen and overseas citizen of India and PIOs and all, and from acting as fund managers to foreign portfolio investors. So, as of now, there are more than 9,100 foreign portfolio investors who are registered with SEBI. Most FPIs are from USA, Mauritius, Singapore, and Luxembourg, and many FPIs have NRIs or PIOs listed as fund managers or beneficial owners. So now, right now, these people are barred from being or holding such positions. So in April, SEBI barred NRIs and PIOs from managing FPI investments, and FPI have a time till December 31 to comply with the SEBI order. So SEBI has said it is reviewing the guideline based on the feedback from government and market players. So that's all about the newspapers of last 2 days. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Do share it with your friends. You can follow us on Telegram. You can also visit our blog, that is www.knowledgehouse.co. And please do subscribe our channel so that you won't miss any updates from us. And you can support us by making donations to this particular Paytm number. If you feel so, please do support us. Another way you can support us is by sharing this video as much as possible. So thank you very much for watching this video once again. Have a nice day.